I don't have to go back to being that other person. I don't want to go back to being that other person. And it was so funny. A few days before I got out of prison, one of the caseworkers had me in her office and she said, well, Lori, are you ready to go back to your old life? And I looked at her and I said, hell no, I'm staying here. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, if I have to go back to being the old Lori, the person I used to be, I'd rather stay here because at least I won't hurt anybody.
That was Lori Kinney, and this is the SHAIR Podcast.
It's time for the SHAIR Recovery Podcast, where we bring you amazing life-changing success stories from addicts and alcoholics all over the world who share their inspiring journey in recovery. And now, here's your host,
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the SHAIR Podcast. And today, our special guest is Lori Kinney. And this is one of those stories where I am so grateful that I have the opportunity to host the SHAIR Podcast and be able to record some of the most unbelievable, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, and impactful real-life stories. These are the type of stories that you only see on TV or in the movies. And today, Lori shares her Hollywood blockbuster story with us. So without further ado, let's dive into Lori's story. But first, I'm excited to announce that we have officially launched SHAIRspace, the Empowerment Network. And what SHAIRspace is a personal development, life coaching community where happiness, fulfillment, and purpose equal success. SHAIRspace is a live, in-person, online coaching session every week with me and all the other SHAIRspace members. So each week, what you will get is in-person coaching with me, weekly live online meetings with myself and the other members. And in those meetings, what we will be focusing on is what is holding you back, removing self-doubt, crushing your fears, establishing positive habits, identifying your superpowers, what sets you apart from the rest, and developing a whole new belief system about yourself and the world around you. If you are listening to this right now and you are not happy, fulfilled, or inspired to live in your purpose, then SHAIRspace is the right place for you. At $37 a month, it's the best personal development platform available on the internet. So for more information about SHAIRspace, go to www.theshairpodcast.com, and on the top right corner, click on the SHAIRspace button, or on the right-hand side of the website is a banner that says SHAIRspace. Click on that banner, and it will take you directly to the website. SHAIRspace. It's time to believe in yourself again. And for those of you that are looking for the perfect recovery gift to give to yourself or to a friend in recovery, then go to www.allrecoveryrings.com. At All Recovery Rings, you can have any recovery medallion beautifully transformed into a ring you can wear on your finger. All you need to do is select the medallion of your choice, submit your ring size, and All Recovery Rings will create the perfect ring for you. So go to www.allrecoveryrings.com and order your recovery ring today. And for those of you who love listening to the SHAIR Podcast and want to enhance your recovery, then join us in our SHAIR Facebook private group, the SHAIR Recovery Network. In this free Facebook private group, you will meet thousands of people in recovery that are loving, caring, and being of service. If you're struggling in your recovery or you're struggling in life, then this might be the perfect place for you. The purpose of the SHAIR Recovery Network is to discuss recovery in all of its facets and all of its pathways in a way that is attractive and all-inclusive. So to join us in this Facebook private group, go to Facebook, go to the search bar, type in SHAIR Recovery Network, and our private Facebook group will pop right up. So join us today. And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. It's one of the best ways to show your support for the podcast. And speaking of kick-ass reviews, here's our latest iTunes review. And this one is from Pelican Girl. Oh my God, I love it. Title is Always Fun and Full of Insight. Whether Omar Pinto is interviewing a high-profile guest or an everyday person in recovery, he dives in deep to uncover treasure troves of wisdom. There is something for everybody in each episode. He also has the best laugh in the world for podcasting. Oh my God, I love it. Thank you so much, Pelican Girl. And if there's one thing I've learned in recovery, it's that it's gotta be fun. It's kind of like sex. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Now, a quick message from Transitions Daily, and then on to the show. Would you like to join a free, anonymous online group that offers a daily topic email with popular recovery resources accompanied by a secret Facebook group for discussion? Then go to dailyaaemails.com for more information about Transitions Daily. And don't forget to share dailyaaemails.com with friends, in meetings, and with sponsees in recovery. Hey, Lori, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
I am so excited to have you in the show. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling hopeful.
That's what we should all be every single day. Wake up with gratitude and hope that today comes out the way that our higher power wants for us.
And I think if we would consider what our higher power wants for us instead of what we want for us, we could wake up with gratitude and hope every day.
I love it. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. All right, folks. So today we have Lori Kinney joining us on the SHAIR podcast. I'm super excited to have her on the show. We've been trying to piece this together for a while now. Lori has an amazing story, and a few of our admins has been pushing for me to get her on the show. So I am super excited. So we're going to bring a lot of HP into the mix here, and we're going to get started. So you ready to do this, Lori?
I'm ready.
All right, let's dive right in. So first of all, take us into your normal daily routine, including recovery.
Including recovery? Well, that's what my daily routine is all about. Without recovery, I wouldn't have a daily routine. I would be a hot mess like I was 10 years ago.
Right?
I get up in the morning and usually I wake up about 10 minutes before the alarm clock, which is a wonderful thing because the alarm clock annoys me. And I can just lay there in bed and I can think about it. And I have a gratitude list on my phone. And I try every day to grab my phone and look at my gratitude list and add one new thing to it every day.
I love it.
So that's my start to my day, is just remembering how very much I have to be thankful for.
Beautiful. I love it. And what's the rest of your day look like?
Well, the rest of my day looks like I'm a college student, and so I go to school full time. I work part time. I spend, about 12 to 14 hours a week in class. I spend 20 hours a week working, and I spend, it seems like, the rest of my week doing homework and hitting meetings.
And what are you studying?
I am studying psychology.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, nobody else has been able to figure out what's wrong with my brain, so I'm going to figure it out for myself.
That's truth. That is absolute truth, right? When nobody else can figure it out, it means that that's our job, and you have the power. Everything that you need is inside of you. You know, all the knowledge from all these years. Can I ask you a personal question? How old are you? I don't know if that's crossing boundaries.
55.
55 years old, folks. So as you're listening, yes. Lori, 55 years old, is in school, studying, working full time. That is absolutely amazing, which shows us all. It's a beautiful example of it's never too late ever. Right, Lori?
That's absolutely true. And I was a little nervous about starting school with all these kids in my classrooms, but I have to admit that I absolutely love them. They are such an inspiration.
Oh, I can only imagine. It's a whole classroom, full of that vibrant energy, that youthful, vibrant energy. We can feed off that.
Absolutely, and I do. If I need to be energized, going to class is a great way to get that.
I love the fact that you mentioned that you get up 10 minutes before the alarm. I'm one of those people too that when I'm in the right state, when I'm connected properly, when I'm doing the right things, when I'm exercising, when I'm putting recovery first, when I'm putting my family first, when my values are in line, I find that I wake up before the alarm clock. And when my life is in chaos, which was not too long ago, a little over, almost a year ago, where my life was just crazy and chaos, I would either get up way before the alarm in terror, dreading the day coming, or it would be impossible for me to get up because I didn't want to. So there is something about being connected, and that 10 minutes before, isn't that just beautiful? Like 10 minutes before means that it's not an hour before. It's like, oh my God, I got an hour still. It's just 10 minutes. Boom, turn the alarm off, get the day started 10 minutes early, and you get an extra 10 minutes to meditate.
Absolutely.
Man, I love it. I love it. All right. So is there a particular spiritual practice that you have outside of meditation? Or, you mentioned that you get up in the morning and you have that quiet time in the morning. Is there something more you want to expand upon on your spiritual practice?
Well, obviously, I do go to church, and I enjoy my church. But I think the most spiritual thing I do, honestly, is either journaling or when I'm floating on the river in a canoe. I know, what a bizarre combination.
Yeah, but I can actually envision that boat. Being on that boat and just being on the river, and there's no traffic out there, and there's no big buildings. It's just you and the boat, and maybe another boat that goes by periodically. But I can totally see where you can connect there with source, with nature, with your higher power, and more importantly, with yourself. I think it's absolutely beautiful. So tell us how much clean time you have, and when is your anniversary date?
My clean time anniversary is 11/2 of 2008.
I love it. And how many years is that?
That's 9 years.
9 years. I love it. Yeah, you just celebrated 9 years. I remember that.
I sure did.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, wait a minute.
Did.
That is awesome. I love it. All right, so let's start diving into your story a little bit. Before I let you go here and launch you into your story, tell us about the first time you drank or used drugs, and more importantly, how did they make you feel?
Wow. The first time I drank or used drugs, I stole 3 cans of Budweiser out of the refrigerator, and I climbed up into the hayloft in the barn, and I drank them, and I got giggly and silly, and I passed out, and I forgot about anything that was bothering me at that time in my life. I think I was either 12 or 13 at that point.
Wow. Oh, that wonderful feeling of ease and comfort, right?
Yeah. I had made a new best friend, and my new best friend was Budweiser.
One of the worst beers on the planet.
Well, but it worked. It did what that little girl needed at the time.
No, I get it. All right, Lori, you are all warmed up, so it's time for you to share your story. The battle against drugs and alcohol, the wreckage it caused in your life, when you hit rock bottom, and then finally your journey into recovery up until today. So, Lori, please take it away.
Okay, thanks. So, I grew up in central Missouri. I had 5 brothers, 4 older, 1 younger, and I was the only girl. My dad was out of town a lot for his work. He was an engineer, and he was all over the country and all over the world for work. And sometimes he'd be gone for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. Sometimes he'd be gone for a couple of months at a time. So he was kind of an absent parent. When he was home, he had very specific ideas about what girls could and could not do. And so I spent a lot of my early childhood hearing, "You can't do that. You're a girl." "Oh, you shouldn't do that. You're a girl." So there are very specific things that I was allowed to do and not allowed to do. There was some drama in the household. My oldest brother ended up being rather dangerous, and he was abusive to me for a very long time. And I was afraid. I was always afraid. I felt like a second-class citizen because I was a girl. And I was afraid because I was afraid that brother was going to hurt me again. And he always told me that if I ever told anyone, he would kill me. And I believed him. Oh, I really believed him. "If you tell anybody, I will kill you." And so I was rumored to be the clumsy child, the one that fell down steps and banged into things and scraped her arms and knees, and it was because I had to make up some story to explain the bruises. If I told anybody, he would kill me. Well, his particular psychopathy got so bad that he finally had to be removed from the home. My parents spent everything that they had trying to help him, and they were completely unaware of what he was doing to me and to some of my other brothers. And it just was never talked about. They finally realized how dangerous he was when he tried to kill my mom. And so he was removed from the house. And from that point on, one of my biggest fears was that he would come back.
Yes.
I had a really bad experience with the first boyfriend who heard me say, when the doctor came into the office and he said, well, the test is positive, Lori, you're pregnant. His comment was, oh, fuck no, not me. And I never saw him again.
Oh.
So I felt rejected. I felt unprotected because, daddy wasn't there when I needed him. And this boy had broken my heart. Why is there always this person that breaks our heart? But that's in so many of us a story, that person that you just thought was going to be forever. And the first time there's a problem, they're gone. So, but mostly it was about me. It was about me drinking and saying, I feel better. When I drink, I'm prettier and I'm smarter and I'm funnier and I'm more talkative and I'm not a wallflower and I'm not that beat down girl that I was. So for many years, alcohol was my best friend. And there wasn't any kind of alcohol that I wouldn't drink. I was not a picky drinker. Whatever you had was fine. Even Sambuca, as much as I hate black licorice, even Sambuca was okay because it got me to that feeling. And I kept telling myself that, it's no big deal. I'm not hurting anybody but myself. I managed to graduate from high school and then immediately got a job so I could move out and get my own place. And I didn't have to do what mom and dad wanted me to do. And yeah, that was another intelligent idea. Most of us in recovery have a whole long history of poor life choices. And like everybody else, I made some really bad life choices. I wanted to take a second job, but I couldn't stay awake long enough. Well, cocaine takes care of that, that. And then you got to work to pay for that buzz too. I got married when I was 23 to a person that I had drugs, alcohol, rock and roll. That was our commonalities. That was where we coincided, was the partying and the music. And we were complete strangers and almost opposites other than that, but we had a great time partying together. So it seemed like a great idea to get married. Idiots, we make the poorest life choices. But, that lasted for 13 years and I have a beautiful, handsome, incredible son that came from that. So that's something that I can never regret. It wasn't the healthiest situation for either one of us. My husband ended up being also verbally and physically abusive, but I toughed it out for a long time. And I have felt since then that the biggest disservice I did to my son was divorcing his dad when he was 12 instead of when he was 5. Had I done it earlier, that might have been better for him, but it might not. You never know how the past is going to work out. You just have to let it go. And I'm happy to tell you that my ex-husband and I were able to make peace before he passed away a few years back from cancer. And that was a long time coming. That was really hard. I had to accept my part in those arguments, those fights, because honestly, he did try to walk away from the arguments and I would follow him out the front door screaming, "Don't you walk away from me." Yes. I wouldn't let him stop fighting because I wasn't done. And I think my drinking was the same way. I just wasn't done. So we got divorced and that was better. And my son decided that he wanted to go live with his dad because his dad had less rules than mommy did. So that left me divorced and single and living by myself for the first time in a long time. And I just went crazy for a while. I had a really good time, I thought. When I look back now, I see the people that I hurt, though. And I convinced myself that I wasn't alcoholic because I held down jobs, good jobs. I wasn't living under a bridge. I was just a functioning alcoholic. And I, of course, never told myself I was an alcoholic. I like to have fun once in a while. And because I didn't drink every day, I convinced myself that I wasn't alcoholic. I didn't have a problem. I got arrested for DWI, and that was just bad luck. Cops picking on me, making justifications over and over and over. Fast forward through quite a few years of that, and you arrive at June of 2008. And it was a beautiful, beautiful early summer morning. I was off work, and I thought, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to go to the river and just hang out on a riverbank and read a book. That was my plan. And it was a good plan. But somehow my plans usually don't work out the way they're supposed to. I went to the river that day, and I got there about noon, and I had my little cooler with me. And when I was packing my cooler that beautiful morning, I had 5 cans of beer in the fridge. So I threw those in the cooler, and a couple of bottles of water and a sandwich and some chips and some fruit. And I was ready to go spend a day. And I was supposed to meet my boyfriend that evening. We were going to do a moonlight float. So I went to this resort that was owned by some friends of mine and said, hey, I'm going to just hang out on the riverbank for a while. And they said, yeah, that's fine. Have a great time. So I started drinking beer and reading my book. And I thought, 5 beers, that's nothing. That's no big deal. Several hours passed, and one of the kids that works at the resort rode down on a 4-wheeler and said, hey, Bear asked me to let you know that your boyfriend called and he's not going to make it down. He wants you to come up to your place. He's going to meet you up there. Okay, that's fine. So I threw my stuff in the back of my truck and I got ready to go. And I thought, ooh, I'm a little tipsy here. I better stop and have a burger and put some food in my stomach, sober up a little bit. I didn't feel drunk, but just, a little happy. So I stopped at the local bar and grill, and I ordered a burger and fries and a beer, and I drank a half a beer and I ate a burger. And walking out of that establishment across the parking lot to my pickup truck is the last thing I remember until probably 18 hours later, when I woke up in a hospital room and my boyfriend was standing over me holding my one good finger that didn't have a bandage on it or a IV needle in it. And I remember looking at him and saying, what the hell happened? And he said, Lori, you had a wreck. And I said, well, shit, how bad am I? And he said, well, your legs are broken. Your left arm's broken, but they already put plates in it. You've already had surgery to put plates in it to repair your arm. Your right leg's going to take a lot of surgery. Your left one's not too bad. It'll probably heal. They'll just set it. And other than that, I don't really know. So my brothers came down to see me that night because I was awake. And they said, yeah, you're still in critical condition, but they think you're probably going to survive. You took a pretty good lump on the head and you're pretty beat up, but you got some stuff you got to deal with. And we'll talk about that the next time we come down. So the next time they came down to the hospital to visit me. They told me that when I had that wreck, it wasn't just me going off the road. I hit a motorcycle head on, Omar. The man that was driving that motorcycle was dead on the scene.
Jesus.
And his female passenger got airlifted to the hospital about the same time I did. And she died about 10 minutes after we got there.
Oh, my God.
And my world came to an end.
Yes.
Because no more could I tell myself that I'm only hurting myself. It's only making my insurance more expensive. I I couldn't tell myself those lies anymore, because not only had I hurt people, I had killed people. And that was my rock bottom.
Oh my God.
That was my rock bottom. You can't justify drinking ever again. And I wish I could tell you that after that day in June, I never did drink again, but I can't, because that was the only coping mechanism I knew.
Yes.
So when I got out of that was in June. When I got out of the hospital in September, I went to visit my best friend for a couple of weeks, and I was drinking because that was the only way I knew how to deal with the pain. And when I got home, I was drinking because that was the only way I knew how to deal with the pain. And then comes October 21st, and that was my birthday. And I came home on a bunch of pain meds. And the tag on the pain med bottle said, alcohol may intensify effect. And I can't even begin to tell you how much physical and emotional and mental pain I was in. But I really, really wanted to not be in pain. A week after my birthday, my father passed away. And that was on the 28th of October. We had his services on the 1st of November. And a girlfriend of mine was going to take me back to her place to spend the night with her, so I didn't have to be alone that night. And we stopped to get burgers before we went to the house. And of course, we stopped at a bar. And then, of course, she told somebody, yeah, we just came from Lori's dad's funeral, so everybody wants to buy me a drink. I woke up the next morning on her couch, no crutches in sight, no wheelchair in sight, no idea how I got there. So I yelled, and she came up from the basement where her bedroom was. And I said, how did we get here? And she said, I don't know. I said, who drove us home? And she said, well, I hope it was you, because I was too damn drunk. And I said, is your truck even there? So she opened her front door, and her truck was right outside, about 12 inches from her front porch. All 4 of the doors for her truck were hanging open. My crutches were in the passenger side of the truck. My wheelchair was in the back of the truck. One of us drove home to her house that night, and to this day, I don't know who it was, but it hit me like a ton of bricks that I sure as hell could have killed somebody else that night, and I never would have known it.
Wow.
So I called a young man from AA who had reached out to me while I was still in the hospital. And I said, you told me one time if I ever needed help, you would take me to a meeting. Do you think you can do that today? And he said, absolutely. Where are you? So I told him. And he came and got me and took me to my first AA meeting. And that was on November 2nd of 2008. And thank you, Jesus, I have not had to have a drink or a drug since then.
Oh, man.
That was the most horrible time of my life. I spent 6 years as a guest of the Missouri Department of Corrections. While I was in prison, I met several girls who were there for the same reason that I was. One of them that was there for the same reason that I was, but it was her third time. When I realized that I could have done the same thing again, and I would never know it, I promised myself that I would never drink again. And I begged God to remove from me that insane craving for alcohol. And he did about a week later. And I went through hell for that week. I tried to kill myself. My AA sponsor came and picked me up at my house and took me to a mental hospital. And they locked me up for a month until I was no longer suicidal. I went back home to the house that I had been living in. I was alone, could hobble around on a walker a little bit, but I had a couple of phone numbers from people from AA. And I'm telling you, for a girl with no driver's license, no car, and broken legs, I went to meetings at least one a day, sometimes 2 or 3 a day. I made it back and forth to my physical therapy appointments. I made it back and forth to my outpatient therapy appointments. The women in my program saved my life. There was always somebody at the other end of the phone. If I was brave enough to pick up the phone and dial and say, "It's Lori, I need help," there was always somebody there. And that's good recovery. I had 10 months of AA before I ended up having to go to prison. And I think that probably saved my sanity. I found an AA meeting while I was locked up that I went to every week. And the lady that brought that meeting to the prison became a temporary sponsor for me so that I could continue walking the steps. And she would not allow me to feel sorry for myself. Yeah, you've been through a lot, Lori, but you were the one that made those poor decisions. Now you got to learn to make better ones. I did several months of Celebrate Recovery while I was there. I've explored some other recovery programs. The one that I feel the most comfortable with and that I feel works best for me is Alcoholics Anonymous. But that doesn't mean it's the only game in town. I am not and never have been an AA Nazi. If you're addicted to meth and you feel comfortable in this AA group, if you're anything like the addict I was, the drugs came with the booze. They weren't separate, they came with it. They were always together. And if that's your story and this is the meeting where you feel safe and you feel like you can share, then you're in the right meeting. You earned your seat. And I personally would never tell anybody you're in the wrong meeting. There's a separate group for that, because maybe this is the only meeting they can get to, or maybe this is the only meeting that they feel comfortable trying to get to, or hell, maybe it's the only one they know about. I would never tell someone that they're not in the right place. That's a decision that only the individual addict can make. I consider myself to be dually addicted, both to alcohol and to other drugs. And I have attended NA and AA both, and I get a lot of benefit from both of them. And I can tell you, after 9 years of one day at a time sobriety, that for me, that's the only thing that works. I can't think about the 9 years, and I can't think about the rest of my life. I have to live for today. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe the world's going to explode. I have no idea. I don't have that much power. It doesn't matter. All I have to deal with is what's right in front of me. And right now, that's talking to you. And if there's somebody that can get some benefit out of my story, then it's not wasted time. The worst thing that I could do would be to dishonor the people whose lives I took and the people whose lives I destroyed with my drinking. I can honor my dead and I can honor my wounded by being a living amends. I don't have to go back to being that other person. I don't want to go back to being that other person. And it was so funny. A few days before I got out of prison, one of the caseworkers had me in her office and she said, "Well, Lori, are you ready to go back to your old life?" And I looked at her and I said, "Hell no, I'm staying here." And she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "If I have to go back to being the old Lori, the person I used to be, I'd rather stay here because at least I won't hurt anybody."
I get that.
And she said she had never heard that comment quite that way before. But that's really important to me, that I not go back to being that old person that didn't care who they hurt, that lied and cheated and stole. I mean, we're addicts, we're alcoholics. That's what we do. We lie to ourselves. We lie to other people. When we're active in our addiction, we lie, we cheat, we steal, we ignore. And I don't want to be that person anymore. And thanks to my higher power, whom I choose to call God, thanks to his grace and mercy, thanks to an incredible support group, I don't have to be that person anymore. And maybe, just maybe, I can honor my dead by helping somebody else keep from making the same mistakes I did. The little boy, my female victim had a little boy. He was like 6, 7 years old when I killed his mother. And that little boy really haunted me for a very long time. I worried about him. I wondered about him. I guess as the mother of a son, I worried about him. Who's helping him with his homework? Who's taking him to school? Who's taking him to ball games or karate class or, whatever it is that he's doing? Who's loving this little boy? Who's being his mom? He just haunted me. And a couple of years ago, he reached out to me on Facebook and sent me a friend request. And I was terrified to answer it. But I thought, you know what? The rest of his family had plenty of options to talk shit to me. They called my cell phone and they would tell me that they wished I would die and I don't deserve to live. And they were very angry and hurt. And so they reached out and bashed on me. And as painful as that was, I understood it. Because if some damn drunk had killed my brother or my sister, I would have been pretty pissed off too. But this boy, he reached out to me and I answered him and I said, okay, you got it. I figured if he wants to tell me he hates me and that I destroyed his life, he's kind of got a right to do that. Everybody else got the option of doing that. So he should too. And Omar, instead of a hate-filled message, I got acceptance from that boy. He forgave me. And he said that probably if his mother had survived that wreck, she and I would have been friends because she was always, always about giving people a second chance. And I think that's the most beautiful gift that I've ever gotten. The gift of forgiveness from that little boy who had so haunted me was the best gift I could ever have. And I pray for those families every day. And I hope that they're doing well. And I hope for their own sakes that someday they can find the forgiveness. Because they'll never have happiness or peace until they find that forgiveness. And that's what I have to say about my story. So if I left anything out or you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Oh, my God. I'm having a hard time here just keeping it together.
I know, I'm crying over here.
Oh, my God. You're killing me. Oh, sorry to use that. No pun intended. Oh, and as tragic, as absolutely tragic as this is, the powerful takeaways of this entire story are all interwoven and meshed in there. You just have to look for them. You have to look for these enmeshed messages and powerful learning power, examples to learn from because it's all there. A brutal childhood growing up, needing to soothe and comfort yourself from all the abuse for years and years, living in fear all of your life because of what had happened to you and what your brother did to you. These are things that provoke so many people to drinking and using to block out all of these horrible memories and this pain that it feels like it's never ending. And then you go on to your own journey and you create wreckage of your own. And in some cases, it's wreckage that it's tough to find the way to forgive yourself. It's tough to find a way to forgive yourself.
But unfortunately, that's what most of us do.
Yeah.
We create that wreckage.
We create that wreckage and then
how to cope any other way, and we create more.
The beautiful example of that boy choosing to forgive you. And how old was he when he made that call?
15.
15 years old.
15 years old.
And the thing is that when it comes to forgiveness is not about you, even though it did so much for you, right? And that for sure, I get all that. But it was more for him, like you were just saying. You hope that they're able to forgive you because it's not for you, it's for them. You forgiving other people is you allowing yourself to let go of that anger, let go of that resentment, let go of that poison that is eating you alive, because it doesn't serve you. There's no amount of anger, rage, resentment, vengeance. There's none of it. There's no amount that is going to bring them back. Nothing. What we can do from this is use this as a powerful tool to emerge and to evolve into an entirely different person. Who you are today is a powerful, unbelievably powerful person who lives to do service now, who lives to give back, who lives to use every experience that you've had to help others without regret, without remorse, without self-pity, without, you've worked through it all, that time in prison and embracing your higher power. This is something that I'm having a hard time even putting into words. I'm having a hard time putting into words because I've never experienced anything remotely close to what you've been through. So, man, that damn Jude. She gave me no warning.
She didn't warn you at all?
No, she goes, you have to listen to Lori's story. You have to. Oh my God, it's going to blow your mind. I was like, I've been doing this for 3 years, Lori. I have heard some unbelievably powerful stories. And yours is now in the top 10 of like, oh, you got me. I am right. I'm in the middle of this going, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say after this, except that what a miracle it is, and what an honor and a privilege it is to record your story and to be able to deliver this message to all the SHAIR podcast listeners, because this is something that you don't just walk away from. This is something that you take Lori's story, you put it in your recovery toolbox, and you remember that this could be you, that someone else has to live with something for the rest of their lives that they would have never had to if they had just made, one, if it would have been, if there would have been one thing in the way, if you would have gotten a flat tire, if your boyfriend would have come down to the river, if you wouldn't have gone to the burger place, there's so many ifs, right? There's so many times in that split moment of time. And because there's so many things that could have happened and didn't, if they would have been a half an hour late, if they, whatever the case, if all of those things. And then you get to this point where it's like, somehow, some way, was this meant to be? Is this something? Is there such
I think that it was meant to be, Omar. I really do.
Yeah.
The big book tells us when we're upset, frustrated, angry, we should look to ourselves and find out what's bothering us, because nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake.
Yes. And I don't
quote the big book often, but I have really had to spend some time with that statement in that book, trying to find a purpose and a use for this life that I've been given.
Well, there is a purpose, like you say, for everything. Everything happens for a reason. We say this all the time, but when it comes to a situation like this, you want to tread lightly. At least that's what I'm doing here, is I'm, treading lightly, because, for some people it's like, why? And everything, your whole story just screamed to me that there's so many moments where this could have been avoided. And then you end up in prison with other women where this has happened, and other ones that have happened to them 3 times. 3 times. And you're sitting there having this epiphany going, I still don't remember how we got home. I still don't remember who drove.
Right.
But I do know that this could have been my second time, and I hadn't even served my sentence yet for the first one. I mean, come on. It's too much. It's too much. And it's mind-blowing and it's heartbreaking. But this 15-year-old boy, the champion that he is, I'm all teared up now.
Yeah, me too.
This hero that this kid is, what he learned from this, he can teach to others.
Absolutely.
He's going to carry this to so many people because there is strength and power in forgiveness, because what you learn from this, you carry this to others, right? And it's not this kid who's broken. It's not this kid who has a vigil for his mom every single year and lives in this tragedy, because that serves no one. That serves no one. Sharing your story and bringing this to light and telling people, you know what? This could be you, right? And regardless of what power and strength it has given me and what I choose to do with this moving forward, if I could do it all over again, I would probably do it different.
Yeah.
But that does not serve me at this moment. It has happened. And by God, it's never going to happen again. And I will live my life in service for the rest of my life, helping as many people as I can and doing a living amends to those that matter the most, the people that need to hear this story the most. It's got to be one of the most impactful stories I've recorded. I'm falling apart here. Oh my God.
Well, I'm sorry that Jude didn't warn you to keep the Kleenex handy.
I get so busy, and she's probably going to tell me I told you, but you don't listen to me. And I am one of those people that, I have 30 things going on at the same time. I've got so many projects going. I live for service. Lori, I'm just like you. I live every day to find new ways to serve others and myself, right? And to do what my higher power's will is for me every single day. I seek, I seek that the knowledge from my higher power. So you get caught up, and then somebody says, hey, you should interview this person. Yeah. And then it goes to the wayside. And then it's like, hey, what about this interview? And then it's like, okay, I'm listening now. Right. And then it's like, you don't want to miss this. And so, yeah. And she probably said something. And I just wasn't paying attention. And then boom, you get sideswiped.
And then I dropped this in your lap.
Yeah. And I'm having a hard time just piecing it all together because it's super emotional. It's super compelling, and how brave you are.
But Omar, it's really not about me.
Yeah.
My story really is not about me.
Yeah.
It's about the power of recovery. It's about the power of change and forgiveness and love. Yeah. That's what my story is about.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's no question about it. And that is it. That is everything. Everything, it embodies everything that you just said. So I'm not going to add anything more because I am leaving that. All right, so we're going to close up because
we can both go have a good cry.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go hug my wife and my daughter and tell them how much I love them.
Do.
Yes. Oh, my God. And thank you. And I want to thank my higher power for giving me the opportunity to be here right now in this moment with you, because it's truly a blessing. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Omar. Thanks for asking me.
Wow. All right. So we're going to close up, and we're going to close up for the newcomer. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions about your early recovery. that I want you to respond so you can inspire the newcomer. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. So number one, what was keeping you from getting clean or staying clean when you first got introduced to recovery?
Fear of being laughed at, fear of being told that I was too bad.
Yes. Fear of not being accepted.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. And so number two, at what point did you have a spiritual awakening, that aha moment in recovery when you accept that you were powerless over drugs and alcohol, but for the first time had developed the hope that you could recover?
That hope came along pretty early for me. I was probably in maybe my third or fourth month of sobriety when a young woman that I knew from the program had an amazing, life-altering job offer, one that she had dreamed about. And she looked at me and she said, if I was still drinking, this would never happen. And I thought, well, yeah, she's right. And that could happen for me too.
Yes.
And that gave me hope.
All these wonderful aha moments that along our journey, they're magnificent. Before we go on, if our listeners want to reach out to you and find you, like some of the women that are struggling in the group, because there's so many, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Go ahead and get a hold of me on Facebook or on Messenger.
Beautiful. Do you have a favorite book that you would recommend to a newcomer that you read in early recovery?
Other than the big book, I think As Bill Sees It was really, the little sound bites from As Bill Sees It were really helpful for me because it wasn't a big, long story. It was just like a one-page narrative about this situation. And that did help me. Yes.
All of that literature, it's designed to create all those aha moments as you're going along. You had that, what is it called, of the educational variety.
Yes.
That we have as we go through and work our steps. So, number 4, what is the best suggestion you have ever received?
If you don't find what you really need in a meeting, go to a different meeting.
Oh, man. I love that. It's reminding me a lot of what you said in the beginning or in the middle of your interview, telling your story about going to meetings and, being in a meeting that's all inclusive, that it doesn't matter what you say or how you say it. It's all about being able to share openly and honestly about where you're at and asking for help, and when we judge people or we place a certain criteria on how we share or how we identify as, this is what pushes people out of the meetings. There is a tone of self-righteousness and being judgmental that I personally believe does not belong in any 12-step fellowship or in any fellowship that is designed to help people. When we start to criticize people that are brand new based on what they say, in a way that pushes them out, then what is the service that we're providing? It's taking away from the intentions. It's one of the reasons why I started the SHAIR podcast. It's one of the reasons I started the Facebook group, because I couldn't tolerate some of the old timers and just how closed-minded they'd become. And they started to act like they did when I was going to church. When I was in religious organizations, my mother's a Jehovah's Witness, and this is the only religion, and this is the way that you serve God, and this is the way you communicate with God. And if you're not doing it this way, and if you're not doing these things, then you're not doing it right. And I started to feel that in the rooms. Have you had that similar experience?
I have, and I don't think God ever said that about religion. Men did.
Yes.
Human beings did. And I don't think God ever said that about recovery either. Again, human beings did. I think God wants us to help each other and love each other.
That is it.
Yeah, I don't see any way someone can be in recovery and not do that. That's what recovery is all about, is helping each other.
Absolutely. One of the meetings that I frequent the most is an NA men's meeting here in Costa Rica. It's an English-speaking one. It's on Tuesdays. And there's so many newcomers in it. There's so many. It's a night meeting. So a lot of the old timers, they like the noon ones, the morning meetings. So they don't venture out at night. So we don't get the old timers in there, Most of the time, I'm the guy with the most amount of clean time. So we get a lot of the newcomers in there, and there's none of that, right? It's like whatever you got that's going on in your life right now, let's put that on the table, man. Let's put that on the table, get it out of your head, and let me give you a hug. And I don't care what you say or how you say it, right? As long as you're not judging anybody else, which typically they're not. Typically, they're not cross-talking, and it's about them, right? And I think that's the most beautiful thing about being a newcomer is that you haven't gotten enough clean time to start feeling like you know something,
Right.
And you feel like you all of a sudden have some shares in the fucking fellowship. You know what I mean? Like now, all of a sudden, you're a board member. It drives me bananas. So I'm glad we're on the same page. And for someone, I'm starting to get my senses back here. I'm starting to feel like myself again. Like I'm back. Man, you really put me in a tailspin there. I think that for people like you that have gone through, literally found yourselves in the depths of hell, in the absolute depths of hell, and realized that hell is on earth, that when you come out the other side, there's no room for judgment. There's no room for self-righteousness. There's only room for love.
That's true.
And I think that if we all came from that place, wow, I can't even imagine what the world would look like today. I can't even imagine. Powerful, powerful. I love it. Whew. All right, so number 5, if you could give our newcomers only one suggestion, what would that be?
Learn to socialize with people from your meetings. Make friends with them. Go out for a meal or a cup of coffee after a meeting once in a while. And that way, when you need someone to talk to, you're not calling a complete stranger.
Yes.
Because it's hard to call a complete stranger and say, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. But it's also hard to call your friend, whoever, and say, hey, I'm having a tough day.
That's absolutely right. One of the things that I recommend to all newcomers when it comes to relapse prevention is, number 1, get a sponsor. And then number 2, have 5 people in your phone, right, that you can call, right, when the shit hits the fan, like when it's time, when it's go time, and you need, right, and the only way you're going to feel comfortable making that call when you need them is to make that call when you don't need them. So pick one of those people, right, whether it's your sponsor, it's one of those people on that list of 5, and just call one of them once a week and get in the habit of calling them if it's just to say, hey, man, just called us to see how you were doing and just to say hello and to check in. And the other person's going to say, oh.
I absolutely agree with that.
Oh, cool. Hey, thanks for that. And in today's age of WhatsApp and text messaging and Facebook messaging and the list goes on, right? You can also, do the same thing. It's almost as if, staying in, having that conscious contact, not with always with a higher power, but having a conscious contact with others, like you say, is critical. It's so difficult to call somebody, melting and melting down, right? When you haven't had a cup of coffee with them, when you haven't reached out and asked them, hey, how's your day going? And, just wanted, you're one of the people that is on my recovery Rolodex, and I just wanted to see how you were doing. When you call them, they're going to answer.
Yep. And we all need those people. It doesn't matter whether we've got 10 minutes of sobriety or 10 years. We all need those people.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Lori, this has been one of the shorter episodes that I have recorded and literally one of the most impactful interviews I have done. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, O.
Man, I love your story. I'm at a loss here. So, folks, we have now reached the end of the show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
Pura vida.
Thank you for joining us on the SHAIR Recovery Podcast. To check out the show notes page on this interview or to thank our guests for sharing their story, go to www.theshairpodcast.com. While you're on the website, don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter to stay up to date on the latest news, podcasts, and interviews. Want to be one of our guests and share your story? Then go to our website and click on the Share Your Story button. We share our inspiring recovery stories every Tuesday, so subscribe to our show on iTunes or Stitcher Radio to get your free weekly download. We'll see you then. The opinions shared on this show reflect those of the individual speaker and not of any 12-Step Fellowship as a whole. And though we discuss 12-Step recovery and the impact it had in our lives, we do not promote or endorse any 12-Step Anonymous program.